Hello, everyone. Welcome to our town hall. I'm Randi McCallian. I'm running for Missouri's 8th Congressional District, and Brita Mackey is our field manager, and she's on this call as well, and she will be helping with the logistics of it. Our agenda is to do 6 questions that are commonly asked, and I will answer quickly, 2 to 3 minute answers. And then we have just a brief image to show at the end, sort of a handout about Jason's votes on these issues, on my opponent, Jason Smith's votes. And then if there's any other questions people have that weren't addressed in those 2 separate things, then you can ask your questions at the end. This is being recorded, and we will be sharing it to our YouTube channel and social media after this to help voters make their decision for November 8th. Did I cover it all, Brita?
I think so, yeah. So yeah, let's just get started with the first question, which is, what is your background and what experience will you bring to Congress?
So my background and experience that I will bring to Congress, I have nearly 20 years of experience working with families and children. I've worked in positions such as autism support, in early Head Start, parents as teachers. I've also helped people through birth and postpartum as a doula and a lactation consultant. And I have experience running multi-state public health programs as a program director, and also working in hospital quality improvement for babies in the NICU was my specific project. I have a bachelor's in science and a master's in public health, and I would like to bring that background of healthcare improvement and of what children and families need to survive in this district, but to thrive as well, to Congress to do better for our country and our district.
The next question is, if elected, what will be your legislative priorities and what changes do you most want to bring to District 8?
So first, the most important thing to me is that we have a congressperson who will bring our tax dollars back to our district to invest in infrastructure, job creation, job growth, in healthcare and hospitals, and in our schools. So right now, our congressperson doesn't do that. They don't bring our tax dollars back to our district. They say that it's frivolous spending. So in reality, that means that we are paying taxes and we aren't seeing the benefit of those taxes back in our district like we're supposed to. So that's one thing I will do right away as our congressperson, is make sure that the budget has dollars for our district and the programs we need and the infrastructure we need. I will also work right away on getting a computer chip factory in the 8th district, because that bill has already passed and there's already funding for computer chip factories to be developed in the United States. This is a national security issue. This is an issue of, inflation and not being able to get access to computer chips because we don't make them in the United States. And I want to see our district, which was once a manufacturing district, have jobs like that again. And so a great place to start is with a computer chip factory. And fun fact, we actually have the precursor liquids and technology right here in Phelps County, where I live. There's a company that develops the things you need to make computer chips. So we already have step 1 in the 8th district. It makes tons of sense to have the computer chip factory itself here too. The other thing I will do right away is start getting our healthcare discussions in Congress to focus more on downstream healthcare providers. My district suffers from not having enough access to healthcare. In the Boot Heel region, 5 out of 10 counties don't even have a hospital. And one of those hospitals in the Boot Heel doesn't even do obstetric care. So they can't help you birth your baby or take care of any issues you might have around OBGYN issues. So we need more healthcare, but it can't all just be doctors and nurses. I want to see more of a focus on downstream health providers like community health workers, people that can help us with diabetes management, asthma management, to make sure that we're not needing as many bigger services later, like, you know, having to go to the hospital for an asthma attack. Instead, we can prevent it. So yeah, I think those are great things to start with.
Yes, I agree. And the third of our frequently asked questions is, why did you choose to run for office?
So I first got into electoral politics because I saw, when I was working with families and children at the bottom of that working ladder, I saw that the people around me doing the work knew the answers of what policies were helpful and what policies we needed, and what policies created barriers that were unjust and that needed to be removed. And year by year went by working with families in their homes, families in clinics. And I really just saw that those changes weren't happening at the legislative level, that all of us at the bottom knew we needed more midwives, we needed more home visitors and healthcare workers like community health workers supporting families and children. We needed better childcare that was accessible and affordable, and our public schools needed more resources. And when those things weren't happening, I just started to realize that it was us working at the bottom of the ladder that needed to get into electoral politics. If the government's not representing you and the things you know the most about, then it's time to get your voice into that government and to make those changes. So that was my original push into electoral politics, was advocating for children and families and maternal and child health. And this race specifically, I got into this race because we didn't have someone running against our congressman. And I saw that he's left our district behind, that he is in this for himself now. He's more worried about his position in Congress than the fact that we have the highest rates of child poverty in the state, in the 8th district. And I knew that our district needed someone to hold him accountable, to point out his hypocrisy, and to make sure that we knew that things are not okay and that we deserve better. So it may be a tough race and a big mountain to climb, but it's worth it because we deserve better representation that isn't going to be padding their own pocket and trying to get chair of the House Ways and Means Committee, but is focused on the fact that 1 in 5 children are hungry, that we had the most hospitals close in this district than any other district in the last 8 years, that we are losing jobs, our infrastructure is crumbling. We deserve a chance at the American dream, just like everyone else in the United States.
And our fourth question is, what is your stance on abortion or a woman's right to choose?
So I have a background in maternal and child health, and that's one of the reasons I got into electoral politics, was to improve our maternity care system. I already saw and felt and experienced that we don't have a respectful women's health care and maternity care system. So when it comes to your right to choose what you do to your body, I have always been defending our right to give birth the way we want, to be respected when we give birth and postpartum. And then when we lost our right to choose whether or not to have a child or to receive healthcare to remove a fetus from a uterus that's not going to survive, we lost the only big step that we had taken to having respectful maternity care, women's health care. So in short, and to be simple about it, I will always defend your right to bodily autonomy. I don't believe that the medical industry and the government should ever be in control of what you do with your body, what healthcare you receive, and what choices you make for your family or starting a family. I also want to point out how important it is that we talk about abortion, because right now in Missouri, we have an abortion ban, and this is leading to people not being able to get a dying fetus removed from their uterus. This is dangerous. We are now getting into the zone of more women, more people dying from a lack of health care. And we already have the worst maternal mortality rate of the industrialized developed world. So the United States is already failing mothers and babies with the worst maternal and infant mortality rates. And now we're going to restrict more access. It just doesn't make sense. So I don't ever believe the government should be involved in your medical decisions, in your healthcare decisions, and in what you do with your body. And I will stand by you and defend you till the end.
And our next question was, what is your stance on firearm safety or Second Amendment rights?
Yeah, this is a great question. I get it all the time in my district because guns are important in my district. This is a very rural district where hunting is one of the main ways a lot of people feed their family. We also, many of us have small farms, hobby farms, or even big family farms. And there's coyotes, there's bears. We do a lot of defending our farm animals from the wild out here. And I know that's why a lot of people in my district are concerned about some of the rhetoric they hear around gun rights and gun laws. So like many people in my district, I'm a responsible gun owner. And like many people in my district, I also want to see common sense gun safety that protects our children and our families from accidental or purposeful gunfire. I support things like background checks on all gun sales. I support safe storage laws. And I want to make sure that we are doing a good job protecting our families from gun violence within the family. In our district, we see a very upsetting high rate of suicide by gun. And I want to make sure that we are also protecting people who are in a mental health crisis from the risk that gun violence poses.
Last question was, how will you work across the aisle to get things done?
Yeah, this is an important question right now since we're all so divided among parties. And I just want to say that, you know, politics isn't like a football game to me. This is people's lives. This is children who are hungry in our district. This is families in a farming district who can't get access to nutritional food, and that makes us suffer. So I've already been meeting the Republican leadership in the 8th Congressional District. Anytime I've been at an event and I have a chance to meet with the Republican County Committee, for example, I do. And I try to connect with them on the issues that are important to our district: infrastructure, housing, a strong local economy, making sure people can have access to education, healthcare, and food. And so I feel like I come from a background and a field that is already used to working in all different ways to get things done. You know, when you work with children and families, there's so many diverse needs, and I have experience working through that with people. I've also worked in hospital quality improvement, and there's a lot of big thoughts and feelings about how things should be done through the upper level of hospital ownership all the way down to how the patients feel. And I've worked between those groups and among them in making sure that we improve care in a way that's right for everyone. So I'm not afraid to meet my Republican colleagues, to work across the aisle, and even with my own Democratic colleagues who don't always see eye to eye with me. We are a very diverse country and a very diverse group of people. And ultimately, I love working with all those ideas, thoughts, and experiences, because then we can legislate for the common good and not just for one party, one group of people, or just, yeah. So I look forward, no matter what happens on November 8th, to working with Republicans across this district to make our district better for all of us.
We're just going to quickly share this handout, as Randy mentioned before, and we will be sharing this out after too. So now I'm going to share my screen. So yeah, I don't know, Randy, if you wanted to.
May I take over? Yep. So as I talked about, you know, a computer chip factory in the 8th, I think is a great thing for us. And Jason Smith voted no on that. So it's pretty clear that he's not going to be advocating for a computer chip factory in the 8th district. He also voted no on relief for restaurants and other hard hit small businesses in 2022 to help them recover from, COVID and all the destructive things that happening during that pandemic. So when it comes to healthcare, Jason voted no on the Affordable Insulin Now Act. And our district, the 8th district, actually faces very high rates of diabetes throughout much of the district. We are also the poorest district in the state. We have the least amount, or lowest median income. And, affordable insulin would have been important to our district. He also voted no on the Mental Health Matters Act, and that was a step to increase mental health and behavioral health access. And that was for especially schools, businesses, to be able to access money and services to improve their mental and behavioral health care access. When it comes to infrastructure, Jason voted no on the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act, and that's a bill that has brought a lot of money to Missouri for things like roads, bridges, and internet. I think this is an important moment to remind everyone watching that you can pressure your city council and your county commission to ask for money to expand broadband internet in your area. So there is funding in that infrastructure bill that can specifically help our district with internet access, but our city council and our county commission have to request that money. He also voted no on funding rural development and agriculture as a part of the 2023 federal budget. So they are working on the budget, and he voted no to a number of the parts of the budget that would have helped our district. When it comes to abortion and reproductive rights, Jason voted no on the Women's Right to Reproductive Freedom Act. He also voted no on women's rights to access contraception and healthcare providers' right to provide it. And that's not just a woman's issue. We know that many of our respectful male partners also want access to contraception. And Jason voted no, that you do not have a right to have that protected federally. When it comes to children and families, Jason voted no on lowering food and fuel costs. He also voted no on the Infant Formula Supplemental Appropriations Act. So when we were, still kind of are, struggling through getting infant formula in this country right now, he voted no on helping families receive that and funding more of it. I think it's important here that I also mention this is an area I have background and training in. One of the reasons that we had this formula crisis is because we don't have a really good infant formula product and regulations around it in the United States. And at this time, there are usually a couple babies every year that end up dying due to contamination in infant formula. It would not be that hard to regulate formula companies and make sure that we have a safe product that won't get pulled from the shelves and cause another formula crisis. When it comes to the Second Amendment, Jason voted no on the Break the Cycle of Violence Act, which is an effort to decrease community violence. So though he says he protects your right to guns, he is not doing a good job of keeping our communities safe when it makes sense to. And this was one of those bills that will help to decrease the violence we see in communities among people. Jason voted no on the Mental Health Justice Act, which is a bill to create more behavioral health first responders to assist with mental health 911 distress calls. So this has been something that's been rolling out in some cities and states across the nation, where when there's a behavioral health distress call, there's actual mental first aid and behavioral health trained people who respond. So that is some of Jason's votes on some of the issues that are most important in our district. Thank you for joining us. I'm glad to share my campaign with you, and I hope I can earn your vote.